We're going to get our meeting started here. It's 6 o'clock. A little light-handed tonight. Dr. Ball and Mrs. McFarland are absent. We have, what, 5 of us here. Is there any comments from Peanut Gallery out there? No? All right.
Good thing you don't have any teachers here, Gary. Good call.
Okay, well, we'll go here we go. I think we're ready. It's about 8 minutes late, so 7:08. We'll start our meeting. We have 2 board members absent, Dr. Ball and Mr. McFarland. So a majority vote now would be a 3-2 vote if we have something along that line. Okay, would you rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And because we're on break, we don't have any student reps tonight. We're on a break, but we're having a meeting? Yep. Okay, just checking. Okay, in closed session, for personnel matters, Mr. Nava motion and Mr. Stroh second, and the board approved the appointment of Eric Collins as Director of Personnel, effective date to be determined by the following vote of 5 yes, 0 no, 2 absent. Also, regarding the conference with legal counsel, Mrs. Alexander motion, Mr. Nava second, and the board approved case inspection number 1733549 by the following vote, 5 yes, 0 no's, and 2 absent. Okay. Oh, is Dr. Crocker here? Oh, should I go up here in front?
Sure, use that mic, that would be great.
Shall I join you?
You get to come up here too.
You shall.
It's not just me. This is all about you. This is all about you. This is National School Lunch Week, which is October 14th through the 18th. Whereas the National School Lunch Program has served our nation for 78 years through advanced practices in nutrition education, and whereas the theme for the 2024 National Celebration is School Lunch Pirates, Find Your Treasure. And whereas the Lodi Unified School District Board of Education recognizes that children who are provided breakfast and lunch daily are better prepared to be successful in the classroom. And whereas the Lodi Unified School District Board of Education continues to recognize and takes great pleasure in commending the dedicated food service professionals and administrators who accept and meet the daily challenge of supporting education by providing healthy school meals to the students of the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lodi Unified Board of Education hereby proclaims the week of October 14 through 18, 2024 as National School Lunch Week, and encourages all residents to become aware of the benefits of the National School Lunch Program and support good nutrition habits for their children in the hope of achieving a more healthful citizenry for today and the future. It's proclaimed this day on October 24th by the Board of Education.
Thank you.
There you go. So this is Pirate Week for school lunches. Find your treasure. Yeah, okay. Go home. All right, where are we? Okay, Mr. Young, you have superintendent's report.
Members of the board, as you are aware, we had a safety incident that took place at Lodi High School during the week that our country, county, and our own district were facing viral threats against schools circulating on social media. A substitute secretary called a number that triggered a call alarm for the lockdown, and the site responded as they are trained to do. They placed the site on lockdown. I have sent 2 updates to our community following this incident, including the one on the screen. Since that incident, we are working on the following to strengthen our safety efforts. We have updated our phone systems and the buttons that are used for alarms and lockdowns so we can reduce and eliminate accidental calls for lockdowns. We are in the process of reviewing new communication tools to be used during crisis situations. We are developing emergency preparedness documentation for our substitutes, and we are preparing new emergency training for our substitutes. We are working on new processes for releasing students from classrooms and reunification plans for after a crisis situation. We are scheduling time with Lodi PD to discuss how we can better collaborate and work together in the event of future crisis situations. Thankfully, it was a false alarm and not a real threat. We learned a lot that day, and we know we have more work to do going forward, but I am deeply appreciative for how seriously everyone took the lockdown and for making sure that everyone was safe that day. But what happens following the lockdown is something we need to improve upon moving forward, especially at a large comprehensive high school. With that, I have nothing further. Back to you, Mr. Knackstead.
All right, thank you. If you don't mind, I'm going to break from the agenda just to announce, because I just got it myself, that my youngest daughter just gave birth to twins. This is her third and fourth children, and one, the girl is Amelia, and the boy is Wes. Everybody seems to be doing fine, so, anyway. I didn't think that was ever going to happen, but it was going. Okay. Okay, let's move on to comments from employee groups. Okay, let's make sure you give us your name and hold 5 minutes, please.
Okay. President Knackstead, members of the board, Mr. Young, members of the cabinet. First of all, congratulations. My sister, who's also a teacher in Truckee, has boy and girl twins.
Oh.
And it's, I was getting my oil change today, and there was a retired teacher from Stockton Unified who was there with her daughter and son-in-law, she and her husband, and they had twin boys that were 8 weeks old. And so that was interesting, but it's, Grandpa, they're gonna be calling you. They're gonna be calling you.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, it's a lot. 2 at once. There's a reason that we usually have them 1 at a time. I want to thank Mr. Young for addressing the issues at Lodi High. My teachers have come to me. Lodi High teachers have filled out a survey, and other teachers have also filled out surveys who've experienced lockdowns. And some of these concerns were brought to our safety committee, but I'm not sure if the board is aware of them. One of them is that the lockdown kits that are in our classrooms, much of the provisions were spoiled or outdated. As you know, plastic leaches into water bottles and at a certain date. That's why they have a date on them. You're not supposed to drink them. So most of them were several years old. I know personally, my kit, when I was at Murata, was rated during COVID for some of the materials, and as far as I know, it was never replenished. They were also very concerned about release procedures, and parents were getting frustrated to the point where we had parents pounding on the doors for teachers to release their students, and of course they can't do that. We're instructed not to do that they have to go through the process of signing them out in the office and all that stuff. Lack of personnel, our phone system could not handle everybody who was trying to call in. It would go to a voicemail and the voicemail box was full, or it would just be ringing busy. So that's something that we need to look at. One of the things that did not happen is I heard that there was a debrief by some of the people at the district, but they didn't include the people who were on the ground, and that includes the teachers, the site security, and other people on staff at the site, and that really needs to be done. I think a lot of that information, if you guys had some of that information, would help you with what Mr. Young described as coming together and getting a more comprehensive plan. I think they have some good ideas. I think we need to listen to them. The first that they've ever been able to be listened to was at the safety committee meeting where they had asked if they could participate, and I said yes. LAA is allowed to have teacher representatives. Here you go. So I heard some very scary things that may or may not have happened because a lot of it is hearsay, so I don't know for sure, so I'm not going to repeat it because then that just starts rumors. But we really need to look at these policies. It's very, very scary. And I have, when I was at Delta Sierra, I was in lockdowns twice. Both of them were real lockdowns. One of them, there was a murder in the neighborhood and the culprit was running free. The other one was an escaped convict was seen in the neighborhood. And there needs to be processes for teachers as well. One of the teachers was worried because, for example, she got a child in daycare. They charge you $5 a minute if you're late. And she was with no idea when this was going to be done. And I was a single parent. I didn't always have somebody I could call. I was in the same boat when I was at Delta Sierra. Who's going to pick up my kid? So we need to have some other processes in place for like life events. You know, teachers have a life outside of school. We should be allowed to leave at our contracted hour to take care of our own personal business, our own families. And again, all this needs to be looked at when we do a comprehensive safety plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And a lot of these things have been discussed and will be looked at. Okay, any other employee groups? CCA? Okay, then we'll move to, oh yeah. That was just two. We're going to move to comments for the public. At this point, a 20-minute time period has been set aside for the public to address the board on items not listed on the agenda. Each public speaker shall limit their comments to 3 minutes, please. The board cannot engage in dialogue about the public comments because of restrictions placed by the California Brown Act. Make sure you use your first and last name. So, randomly we have Stacy. I don't know how. Do you know who you are, Stacy? Okay, just checking. What
That's
is your-
me. Stacy Ardeline is my name.
There you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much to all of the board members and all of the folks here and the teachers. I know you all are on break this week. My name is Stacy Ardeline, and I'm a theater educator. I'm an arts education advocate, and I am the founding artistic director of Fuse Theater. My spouse and I moved here 4 years ago, yes, 2 weeks after the shutdown. And we decided to move here because I went to Tokay High School. And we wanted to move back to this area when he retired. And so I did go to Tokay. I did participate in the drama program there. I went to Delta and was in the drama department there and went on to university, became a drama teacher myself for 20 years in the Bay Area. So I'm back here in Lodi. I'm here tonight, though, as a board member of the Lodi Arts Foundation. And our goal is to create opportunities for local artists and art lovers and to engage and experience the transformative impact that the arts can have in our city. And we have talked extensively with the City Council. The economic impact is really important. I've worked at a national level as well as local levels around arts education. And I'm here tonight to really ask the board, because I haven't seen any planning on the website, around the $4.5 million that's available to Lodi Unified through Prop 28. And that is to support and provide arts education for this district. And we also want to offer our partnership to help support the VAPA teachers that we do have in this district and arts education throughout the school district. We want to ensure that our students have access to arts education that supports creativity, innovation, as well as to support mental health and well-being, which we all know is a very high priority right now in our world. And we know that including our young people into our arts programs here in the community will strengthen our community and provide connections for all of us, not just them, but for all of us as well. And we would love to have a liaison within the district to speak with. It has been a little challenging for us to figure out who we can talk to and who, other than going into each individual school, who would be the most appropriate. So we would really love to offer that to the district, to schools, to principals. And I brought some flyers that has some Prop 28 information. I think you've already gotten those, and the resources that are available through Create California. And then also some of our arts activities that are going on in here in Lodi. We have the Art Hop on October 12th. Downtown, and we have Open Studios, which is just coming back from since the pandemic, October 19th and 20th. And my company and Changing Faces are partnering to do a Young Playwrights Festival, and we're in the midst of that right now. And it will be in March of 2025. So thank you all for this time, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on to, okay. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Ann Garcia. I'm sorry.
Babies will make you crazy. Hi, Ann Suela Garcia, Julie Morgan Elementary, and the new Leah Vice President. So, hello. I wanted to talk about safety a little bit. When about 3 meetings ago, there was contracts we were talking about, and one of them was for adult pest control, and it only cost $32,000, which, considering the number of critters and insects and things that we have at our schools, it didn't quite seem enough. So I meant to ask that night, but I didn't. Like, where does that money go? Because it didn't seem like enough to cover. We were talking about maternity moms trying to breastfeed and all those kind of issues, and we have these worms that come into our room every year. At one side of the building, these beetles come and they create larvae. It's super fun and awesome. So maybe we need to invest more in adult pest control because, or I don't know how it works, but that's a concern. So for our health and safety. And Lisa addressed Lodi High School, and I want to talk a little bit more about the survey. A teacher requested that we do a survey, so that's how that came about. And then other teachers were like, well, we've been on lockdown too. And because I created the survey, I was reading the responses, and they were very thoughtful and insightful about what had happened during their personal experience. And so I really urge you to reach out to those teachers at Lodi High, and I'm sure they've contacted you, but also other teachers that have faced lockdowns. My personal career, I know I've shared with you before, I was a student at United Pacific. I was on Christmas break. I came home. I called Cleveland School and said I would be back to the next day, and that afternoon, or that later that day, a man came and murdered those children. So my whole school career has been school shootings. One issue that comes up is school safety. You know, every time something happens, we build another fence, we put another gate, we put a lock, we do this, we do that. And a few principals ago, we were told we had to wear these bright orange vests outside so kids could find us. And in my 40 years of school experience as a student and a teacher, I've never not been able to find the teacher. They're usually the tallest person, not always, but I can always find a teacher. And so my concern is we're asking teachers to put on a bright orange vest. I did talk to my principal this year, and mine is blue. And because I don't believe, apparently our safety person says they're a deterrent, the vest. This district safety person. My playground, Mr. Young, oh, he left. Hey, Mr. Young came to my school last week and was in my room, and then we were out at recess and I saw him leaving because my playground is on the parking lot. I feel like if I'm wearing an orange vest in the front of the school in a parking lot and someone comes to do harm, they're not gonna think, oh, I'm gonna turn around because that lady's got a vest on. I'm gonna be the person they get first. That's my concern. And so I have a blue vest. Other people on my staff have a pink vest and an orange vest. They got to choose. I still feel like we're putting a target on our teachers, and it seems unsafe to me. My playground is out front. I see people come all the time, sorry, I see the playground people come all the time. I don't know who they are. They go slowly through the parking lot. I'm watching them because school shootings have been part of my career, my 35-year career. And I have a student during a lockdown drill and I tell them, everything's fine. And out of the dark, a little voice says, no, someone wants to hurt us. I don't think a vest is gonna stop it, but I think it's gonna make me a target, and my job is to protect those kids. Actually, my job is to teach them. My other job is to protect those kids. But if we could look into those vests and find a better way for kids to find us on the playground and a better deterrent, because all the locks didn't keep them out of Sandy Hook, and an unlocked door is not the reason why it happened in Texas. That's not the reason, but if we could look into that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to consent agenda A. At this point, the public may address the board on consent agenda A, which is routine business. Please, each public speaker shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. So is there anybody that would like to talk about consent agenda A? Okay. Board, is there any items on consent agenda A that you would like to pull?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve consent agenda A.
Okay, yeah, I got that, and Mr. Porter, would you?
I'll second.
Go for a second? All right. Okay, we have electronic voting set up? Okay. Everybody's voted but Mrs. Alexander. There you go. Okay, this passes 5-0 and 2 absence. Okay, moving on to consent agenda B. The public may address the board on consent agenda B, which is student matters. Each public shall limit their time to 3 minutes, and please refer to the students by their number. Any public comments on consent agenda B?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Now you're cooking. Okay. Okay, board vote please. Okay, and that passes 5-0. Okay, other action items. Other action item number 1, AB 1200, documents for Lodi Unified School District employee groups, confidential, mental health therapists, and Lodi Unified School District Administrative Association. Mrs. Juarez?
Yes.
Go right there.
Good evening, President Connexted, members of the board, Superintendent Young. So this document is a required public disclosure of the collective bargaining agreement related to the OA, other action items, OA 1-2, which provides one-time allocation for our unrepresented groups such as management, confidential, and mental health therapists. So this disclosure is in accordance with the AB 1200 and Government Code 3547.5. The total fiscal impact is $434,400.
Okay. Any public comments on this? Do we? Oh, okay.
Lisa Wilkins, LEA. Yeah, my question is, where did this money come from in the budget to give, $400,000 to these groups?
So this is coming from the reserves.
And is there a specific reserve?
Ending fund balance.
Just making that. This time I won't pick that.
Okay. Do we have public comments? Board comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve this resolution.
Second.
Okay. No students, so board vote. Maybe just because they're on vacation, you could come. Okay, and that passes 5-0. Other action item number 2, which is a one-time allocation toward health and welfare benefits from non-represented confidential and management employees. Mrs. Church.
President Knackstead, members of the board, Mr. Young, for your approval is a one-time allocation of funds to be pooled between our non-represented confidential and management groups for money towards health and welfare benefits for one time, the 2025 school year. For your approval.
Sort of the same things we had just now, just before, right?
I'm sorry?
Sort of the same thing we just did with the other group.
This is the
Yeah.
action item, yes.
Yeah. Okay, any public comments? Board comments?
Chairman, I move we approve this resolution.
I'll second.
Okay, board vote then. And that passes 5-0. Other action item number 3, one-time allocation towards health and welfare benefits for non-represented mental health therapists. Public comments? Board comments?
Chairman, I move we approve this item.
Second.
Board vote. Passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to reports. The first one is student achievement and assessment. Dr. Horton.
Board President Knackstead, members of the board, Mr. Young and Cabinet. We're here tonight. I have with me Program Coordinator Uwe Dahman from the Assessment Research Evaluation Department. And we're here to respond to some comments and questions from board members about looking at student achievement. And in particular, some very particular areas of student achievement. We're going to take that opportunity to not only describe some of the student achievement data that we have gathered, but also talk a little bit about how we're moving that forward to respond to the board goals that were set for the superintendent a little bit earlier this school year. So we'll kind of take one moment and then pivot into another, and we think it'll be a very informative presentation and a good time as well. So,
All right, I'm taking a look at our first chart here. Thank you. This data that you're seeing here is focusing on the percentage of students who have met or exceeded the standards on the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, or CASP. And this information, the official information was just released, but it's still embargoed. It's still only under review for the district. So we are able to share our data. Unfortunately, we are not able to share county or any of the other districts. However, what we've done is added some extra years so that we can do some comparisons for context. So we've brought in some of the entities that you see there. Those, we use this term loosely in terms of like districts. We're basing this on enrollment, total enrollment, or it might be the percentage of students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, or maybe some combination, or just a nearby district. So again, so those second set of 3 bars from the left, that is Lodi Unified, and you can see there's been a slight drop in proficiency from the prior year, and again, you have the other districts, the other entities to give a little bit of context. Moving on to the next slide, we provide the same information, same entity comparison. This is for math, and again, a slight drop from the prior year. Moving on to the next slide, we now are taking a look at the A through G requirements met. So again, comparing to those same like districts, and compare, now we don't have the 2024 information yet, so looking at the prior 3 years, from 23 to 22, pretty much even. So roughly the district, the graduates, roughly about a quarter of our graduates graduate with their A through G requirements met. There was some question concerning some advanced placement information. Here we're looking at 3 different data points. So we're looking at the percentage of students who pass their A through G, their advanced placement or their AP course. And we define the pass as C- or higher because that's the minimum requirement for meeting your A through G requirements. And so I'll direct your attention to the 3 bars on the far left. That's the district-wide information. That big blue bar there, that is represents the percentage of students who get a C- or higher. So it's, I believe it's roughly about 92-93% of our students last year passed their courses with a C- or higher. The gray bar represents the percentage of students who took the AP exam in May at the end of the year. And then the yellow bar represents the percentage of students who passed the exam. And then we have, to the right, we have that same information broken down by the 4 comprehensive high schools. So next slide, please. And then here we're looking at just district-wide information. Again, those same 3 metrics, but it's just district, and this is our trend data from 2019 through last year. So kind of looking pre-pandemic, into pandemic, and then coming out over the past several years. Again, those same 3 metrics. You can see that in terms of the course pass, that's been relatively the same. It's very, very high. Hasn't really changed all that much. But the percentage of students who are taking exams and passing, you'll see that trend from 2019 into 21, which was our lowest point there. Definitely a downward trend, and then back up as we get into this more recent year. Now there was a question regarding how taking a look at students who are disadvantaged, how's that impacting the same exact information. So again, we have the same 6 years, same trends, same 3 data points, and a slightly lower pass rate you'll see in the blue bars. Moving up, again, a little bit higher into the last 2 years, moving from right to left. And then, but you will see a much, you will see definitely a lower percentage of students taking exams and passing, that dip in 2021 again, and then moving, getting higher and recovering a bit as we get into the 2024 year. Now, here we're looking just at the percentage of students who are taking the exams, and we wanted to compare students who are disadvantaged with those who aren't, to see if the similar trends exist. And you'll see that there is there's a gap. That's from the far right, or the 2019 data on the far right. And as we move to the left, that dip again in 2021. But by the time we get to 2024, the percentage of students taking exams between disadvantaged and non-disadvantaged is pretty much identical. So we've kind of caught up there and closed the gap in terms of test takers. So I know I've hit you all with a lot. Are there any questions regarding the data?
Aye.
Score, you're a data guy.
Not really, but I'll try and hack through this. First of all, thank you very much, because I've been the one crying about student achievement. And thank you both for putting this together. And Dr. Horton, I did get your email. I'm curating a long email back to you, so I don't want you to think that I'm ghosting you. Let's take a look at this slide. Oh God, are they letting the number for me? Or I'm in trouble. On the side, there's a number right there. So let's go to slide 3. Thank you, Jeff. On slide 3, first of all, we looked at Manteca, Stockton, and Tracy, Twin Rivers. And on Twin Rivers, they're up by McClellan, is that correct?
Correct.
And you have 29,000, 30,000 students, I think?
Roughly, yes.
And then, why didn't we look at Modesto? They're like at 31,000?
I don't recall that. Again, it was a combination of looking at the disadvantaged percentages, roughly the same enrollment. When we say like, we're being,
So you're trying to be like in terms of our clientele?
but very loosely, very loosely.
Okay. Just curious about that. I mean, and for myself, I'd like to see how we're doing versus Lincoln and Galt. Elk Grove, of course, has 65,000, so that's amazing. You know, you can't compare there. I thought it was interesting that we're pretty close to the county, so that's good. Good results there. On slide, I was just curious why we had Twin Rivers anyway, so that's been answered. On the next slide, which is slide 4, we take a look at how we're doing, and I'm surprised at math that we're doing very well. compared to other school districts. Right? And so that's kudos to our math teachers. And we're right in there with the county, so that's outstanding. We'd like to see the state average too, just out of curiosity next time. Moving on to the next slide, slide 5. This is where you lose me a little bit because we are not doing well on our A through G. And when you look at 21 versus 22-23, we've gone up 4%. But when you look at some of the other schools like Tracy and Twin Rivers particularly, because you said that they're a like district, they went up over 10% in the same period of time that we did. I'm wondering if we're looking at some of the things that they did versus what we don't do. Or are you just showing data today?
Yeah, well, we can talk a little bit about that. I think some of the work that we're engaging in right now, and I'm just starting to uncover all the pieces that are going on in Lodi
Right.
Unified. What I'm noticing so far is a combination of understanding better the pathways that we have and the interventions that we have in high school for students that may get lower than a C in a class.
Right.
And right now, I think there's some systemic things that we can do that will help improve that. The other piece too is the work that's going on with our partners from Riverside County, looking at how we approach the work in high school and what we're saying is highly valued will also improve that as well. Having spent 20 years in Riverside County, I can say that that's one of the things that they've done very well that I think other counties in the state have not done as well yet, is to look at the data systems that we have in cleaning up pathways.
Right.
So that way when we see a student that's struggling, we can intervene sooner and still keep them on the A to G track. The other piece that we'll study is kind of a comprehensive piece in that as well, is the requirements for graduation, that we make those more streamlined in Lodi Unified to be sure that we're not over asking what students are going to do, so that we have more room in their schedule for those students that may get lower than a C in a class, that we have time to repair that inside their 4-year run. So there are a few things that we can already look at that would systemically help that process. I'm eager to continue diving deep into that to find even more opportunities, but I think there's some things we can do, not only looking at our sister districts, but also other counties as well.
Right, I think, doesn't Riverside have the little guru of A through G that goes around and
She actually was at the same high school that I was at, yes.
he does the A through G
Yeah,
PD.
yeah, and one of his partner counselors at the county, actually, yeah, both.
He's come to our school district.
He has.
Now, on the A through G topic, just a couple things stick out. You talked about graduation requirements. Are we gonna have to do some change there, do you think, to be more successful?
On first glance, I would say yes. I think there are some things that we can do that will help us be more in line to get more progress on A through G. I mean, we know that A through G is considered a lagging indicator. So things have already happened to earn your way into the A through G number. And the way I would look at it, and I think there's some things we could study, that if we can clean up some of the pathways, I think we can get a better representation of what students are actually achieving, because we take away some artificial barriers that may exist there.
Okay, that's cake further down the road to make, I guess. My understanding is we had a grant a year ago for A through G to look at it and help it improve it. We don't have that grant this year?
No, we still do.
We still do have that grant.
We do.
Okay,
So-
and what are we, so we've had the grant for 2 years. And from that, I guess you'd say then, in '23, we initiated something, or when did the grant serve? 22 or 23? Probably 22.
It was probably about 2 years back.
So
Year and a
22,
half.
right? So we haven't improved. So what happened with that grant? I mean, if we have money and we're trying to do things, we're not showing it here statistically.
I can't speak to things that happened prior to 3 months ago.
I know you're new on the block, and I'm giving you these questions. I'm just
Yeah.
curious what the grant actually.
It can be for a range of things, and I don't think Lodi would be unusual in that with where other districts are. I think it looks to things that can be done to support pathways, typically grades 7 through 12, that would support A to G success for students. So when you look at core classes.
Mhm.
Low-hanging fruit would be things that are happening in ELA, math, social science,
Right.
those kinds of things are really good opportunities to spend on A through G.
I read some of the WASH reports, and they say that our non-CP classes are one of the reasons why our A through G is so low. Low, I'm not gonna say so low.
I would say so, and that's probably not atypical in districts as well. I know that that's been work that I've done in past districts as well, is to clean up those pathways so that we have greater opportunity for A through G for all students to take.
Right.
And that we try to eliminate classes that would otherwise put students on a pathway that goes to nowhere. It doesn't pay off on anything.
Okay, well, thank you for that so much. I've got a couple more questions. On the last slide, slide 6, which is your advanced placement overview. The thing that I find, and this is a broad brush, because I would like to see it broken down by classes, what we offer at each school. Are we offering the same things at all schools? And then when you broke it down into socioeconomic, I'd also like to take a look at ethnicity. You know, how certain schools are doing better than other schools in certain classes that they share, right? I mean, shouldn't we do a deeper dive than, I mean, I like this, it's a start, it's a baby step, but really there is more to this. And when you do percentages, I say in the gray area, that's the exam administration percentage, 68% passed, right? I'm looking at all. That doesn't give us a number. So when I look at Bear Creek and they have a 59% pass rate, and I looked over at McNair and they have a 43% pass rate, or excuse me, exam percentage, how many kids are we talking about? And then in addition to that, if you're in an AP class, shouldn't we have a rule where you have to take the AP test? Or should we offer as a board that we pay for the AP test as an incentive for kids that maybe are socioeconomically disadvantaged, as you have down here in the last slide, and we have more buy-in. And the example I'd use, of course, is now we just call lunch. We don't call it free and reduced. Would that create more buy-in for kids to take AP classes that are socioeconomically disadvantaged? So the percentages are awesome, but it's not telling me numbers. And so how many kids are taking would be great, and then to see this broken down by ethnicity would be great. See it broken down by school, by what classes are being offered would be awesome. And to look at that over a 3-year period and see maybe there's a teacher that's really doing great at one school that could do the PD for another school that's teaching AP as well. Or it could be a clientele issue as well. Now, do we have an AP coordinator?
We do not have a coordinator of AP.
Okay. Do we have a uniform policy for AP tests at all high schools? For example, if you take the class, you need to take the AP test. Do we offer that?
Having a son who attended high school, it was not a requirement that every student who take an AP course take the AP exam. I do know for socioeconomically disadvantaged students, there is a waiver. But there's a waiver for the fee of the cost.
You know, and we get a kickback too, don't we, for administering it, like $5 off each test?
I don't know the
I
answer.
think that's the case. Anyway, I was wondering if we were to offer it free, more kids would then jump in and take AP classes.
Yeah, and I think part of the October 29th study session is to really get deeper into this.
So I'm getting ahead of the weeds.
You're going where you're going, Mr. Porter. I just let you know. I think there's a lot deeper dive that we're going to do on October 29th. This is just to kind of prime the pump and kind of get our heads around it.
So all this work I did is for naught?
What's that?
All this work I did is for naught?
It was inspiring, and you'll be able to bring it back more in detail on the 29th.
Study session.
Study session, thank you. Well, I just thought for the public it'd be good too. Anyway, I just want to appreciate what you've done here, and I do have a lot of questions that I'll send to you in an email. My last question for you is, and maybe this is off topic, is that if you look at the dashboard, they have 8 categories for college, not college, but for graduation preparedness. how are we doing on those eight categories?
Are you referring to the college career indicator, those
Yes.
categories?
Yes.
That'll be part of the same deep dive that we'll do at the study session. Those are very interesting levers to try and get to the college career number. And inside that, I will also, just a preview of coming attractions, there are some definite things that we could be doing in Lodi Unified that will help maximize that college career indicator that, as of right now, we're not getting the most out of
Because
those.
that covers CTE as well, not
It
just
is that part,
college.
that's right.
Yeah, and dual enrollment, all that. I know middle college is covering, but our dual enrollment is lagging behind. Do we have a dual enrollment coordinator?
We do not.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for all your effort, and I guess I'll be ready for you. I'll send you an email, and I'll see you on the 29th.
Absolutely.
Thank you
We
very
do have a
much.
couple more slides though. So that was part one, a little bit more in part two, so.
I know,
So,
I just wanted to
okay.
hit that.
So-
Can I say something? I want to, on these percentages you have, when you come back to our study session, when you give us the people that are tested or included, the number of people?
We will, in fact, yeah, I could hear Uwe over here, his mouth was watering at wanting to bring more data, even as you were saying that, so. Yes, as a matter of fact, when he and I were prepping for this, he brought in vast quantities of reports with numbers, and we decided to take it easy on everyone and provide this. So it's heartwarming to know that you want to see a little bit more. We are happy to provide a little bit more.
Yeah,
We
percentages-
have plenty.
Percentages are great, but like,
Numbers.
pass it out too, that's 50%.
Yeah,
If you have 100 people taking, only 40 pass.
we can do it. We have it, so.
Okay, is there, do you have public comments?
Well,
on the board?
We're not quite
Oh,
done.
you're not quite done, I'm sorry. Sorry, thank you.
Almost done. So we're ready to go to the colorful dot. Okay. So just very quickly, I want to share this, that the data that we've put together so far, I would describe that as the rear view mirror data. So this is looking at data that's happened. This isn't about affecting instruction in front of you. And one of the things that we're responding to that I think you'll find very interesting is that we're taking a really strong interest in the board goals for the superintendent, in particular math, K-12, and what we do for that. And as you can imagine, looking at the data that Uwe brought in for tonight, we recognize that that's looking backwards. It's not talking about what you're doing with students that are in front of you right now. So when we think of our teachers in the field right now doing the work, that's not looking at the kids they're working with today or tomorrow or next week. These are kids that have already gone by in the cohort. So we're looking at how do you maximize and lean into the science of what tells us how students improve and achieve at greater rates with the students in front of you now. And what you're looking at on the screen now is a formative assessment process that leans into the science. John Hattie is a professor of education statistics and measurement in New Zealand. And the work that he's done on that has looked at meta-analysis studies of gathered research from all over the world. Over 300 million students are contained inside of his research. And as you look at this, some of those things that you see is he's come to a place where he can look at a number of effect size to say, what does 1 year of learning in one calendar year look like? And the number that he's come up with on that is a hinge point number that his effect size number is 0.40. So if you keep your focus on 0.40 statistically, imagine if you could get to 0.80. That would double the speed of learning. If you could get to 1.2, you would triple the speed of learning. And if you got to 1.6, you'd be quadrupling the speed of learning. And as I often say in many of the meetings I'm in, we know that at every school in Lodi Unified, there's at least a handful of students at every school that could be in use of doubling the speed of their learning. So we know that. So the question is, so then how do you use the science to lean into the practices that can do that? So what you're looking at on the screen at the top there at 12 o'clock you see is clarity. Clarity is one of those, and I left the effect size there for you at 0.75, doubles the speed of learning. So when we think of clarity, that's when teachers are clear and students are clear, it doubles the speed of their learning. So a question would be, how do we help people with better clarity from teachers and students to get double the speed of their learning? And how do we do that? By leaning into that science. You also see as we move down around clockwise, there are some things such as learning progressions. And that comes from the work of James Popham at UCLA, looking at how students follow a progression of their learning. Self and peer assessment triples the speed of learning. When students are able to self and peer assess, obviously you have to know what you're doing before you can assess yourself or a partner. Then over at about 7 o'clock you see feedback. Feedback doubles the speed of learning as well. When students can give and receive feedback on the work they're doing, that is a really high level skill. And then finally, goal setting and revision. Students that can goal set and revise their work nearly doubles the speed of learning as well. What's interesting about the science with Hattie's visible learning is that clarity acts as a gatekeeper. Clarity comes first. Without clarity, you can't get to learning progression, self-peer assessment, feedback, or goal setting and revision. So the place that we're putting our focus on to look through the windshield is clarity. So I want to give you just a quick video of a kindergarten student from Canada who is doing self-assessment and a progression of her writing. And I want you to listen very carefully to what Sarah, the kindergartner, is able to do. So we'll go to the video.
Can we turn this up a little bit and then start over?
But some people might do
Yeah, that'd be better.
that.
Thank you.
Sarah, can you tell us how this chart works? What points are going to tell us about it? I know nobody's on this, but some people might not be on this. Because some people won't do that because we're in kindergarten. But some people might do that. Now look further at the chart. Tell us about the middle of it, Sarah, around the word crayon. Well, some people sound it out and try to make their letters neat on this one. Good. And what about further up the chart, Sarah? Then what happens? On this one, they try to sound it out. They try to make their letters neatly and try to make the thing right. This is where I am. I sound it out. I try to keep them nicely written. I try to make the right words. I try to keep the letters with a space before they start. And I'm going over to here because it's the last step and I'm over at the 9th step. This is the 10th step.
So obviously when you look at Sarah, not only is she a really cute little girl, but what you see her doing with the learning progression is Sarah, there's no doubt about where Sarah knows where she is. She's at the 9 step, and does she know where she's going? She does. She's going to the 10 step, and she can tell you the difference between the 8, the 9, and the 10, and that is a perfect example of a kindergarten student doing a learning progression and her own self-assessment. Now you can imagine if students can do work like Sarah, that is tripling the speed of their learning. So imagine what that could look like at any grade level, in any subject area, if students could do work at the same level of skill that Sarah can. Really powerful. So that's a quick taste of what we're going to look at. We'll talk more about it on the 29th, but I just want to know if there are any questions about Sarah or where we are or anything of that sort.
What would it take to be like Sarah with you, people that you work with?
You mean the employees themselves or with our
students?
Oh, with the students? Well, obviously it's going to take a lot of time, conversation, and training to help people get there. But remember, it all begins with clarity. The same thing was true with Sarah. She had to be clear about how she did her work, and her teacher had to provide that tool that you see hanging on the wall and help those students be coached to understand exactly what each of those steps mean. So you can imagine the amount of work it takes in the background for a teacher to have someone like Sarah be ready to do that work. It takes a tremendous amount of teaching to get it there.
In other words, she has a goal to reach 10.
She has a goal, and she's clear about that. Her goal is to get to number 10.
Okay, any public comments then?
Dr. Horton in New Bay, Ms. Wilkins, LEA. So if you go to slide 6, so I have a question. So let's just take Bear Creek High School. We have 97.2% who are getting, who get a C- or better in their AP class. We go to the exam admin. So 69% of that, of those students, because if they're getting below a C-, they're probably not gonna bother to take the test. They're taking the test, right? Okay, and then out of that 69%, we have 59.6 who are passing it. So we have to take a percentage of a percentage. So basically, even though what I'm seeing is that even though we have 92% getting a C or better, we only have less than, like a third of them, 30–40%, somewhere in there, actually passing the AP exam. Is that, am I doing my math right here?
Basically.
Okay, so that's kind of what I wanted to know. So that's a little concerning, and how to get more of them passing, because the way these look, it looks a lot better than it actually is. I appreciate this. I'm looking forward to the 29th to really get into the weeds on some of this. And, you know, one of the things that I like that learning progression and knowing where you are. As a teacher, I will tell you, I have a large portion of my class who is either not reading at grade level, and I teach middle school science, not reading at grade level, and the texts and everything are written at grade level. Seeing that progression is great, I get it, but if you are a student who has a learning disability, what I'm worried about is that they're gonna see that and they're gonna go, there's no way I can get there, so I'm just gonna give up. And how do we get past that barrier? Because I mean, one of the things I'm supposed to do as an instructor is I'm supposed to change my instruction, or even kind of sometimes change my expectations based on a child's ability, because I want them to feel successful. We know success breeds success. So if there was something like that on the wall and I have a student who's dyslexic, that, you know, I don't want them to just give up. And that's what I see happen a lot, is they just give up because it's like, well, that's just unattainable. Why am I going to try? So that's something we need to look at and bridge so that we don't disorient or disenfranchise those students who are, you know, not like that little girl who's very self-aware. So, thank you.
Any other comments?
Hi, just a couple. First, AP test, mother of a Bear Creek student who took pretty much all the AP classes. By the time we got to the senior, she took the test as a first year.
Yeah, it's geography.
Yeah, that. And then as a senior, when she was looking at colleges and you're paying all that money for applications, and her colleges, she ended up going to private school, AP wasn't, they didn't take her those units, so we didn't pay for them. And I'm like, why am I gonna put money out for a test when I'm paying for all these applications? So really equal access is an issue. I mean, we didn't qualify for any assistance. It was just we were one income family paying for those. And when you're paying for applications, I'm like, if you're gonna go to this school, then we're gonna not pay for that AP test. I know Lodi High does a fundraiser for that, but it would be great if it was something provided to all students. More students might take them. Kindergarten teacher here, hello. We already chatted, Giants fan. I would love that. Can we go back to the slide that had the little circle where you had the clarity? So goal setting, revision, feedback, learning progression, peer and self-assessment, those all take time. And Mr. Young was in my classroom the other day, and I have 24 kids with a variety of social, emotional, academic needs. And to pull them back to have that time, I don't have any help in my room. I have a resident every once in a while. I officially have no help in my room. So what would it take, Mr. Nava asked, what would it take? It would take some more people. If I had someone in my room where I could set the kids up to do things, and then I could pull back and work with those kids and goal set, those kids could do it. I'm willing to bet that there's not 24 kids in one room in Canada, I'm guessing, because Canada seems to do that a little bit better. But that it would take more people to do that, and we could get the kids there. Because when I have time to sit down and talk with the kids, they tell me the most amazing things. But it takes time, and it seems like I should be able to pull them away. But if you leave 23 5-year-olds to do what they like, while you're trying to have a conversation with another one, it doesn't always go as planned, especially in the beginning of the year. But that would be an amazing thing if we could do that. I would love to be part of that conversation. So, thank you.
Any other comments?
Hi, Jen Castle, and I was an AP Literature teacher in this district for 25 years. I also taught AP Art History, and I am glad you're on this slide because Dr. Horton, I appreciated all that data. That's very valuable. But this concept of clarity, I don't think you arrive at clarity without really talking to your teachers. I think that study session that you've proposed sounds very exciting. I hope you bring in your AP teachers. You have such a wealth of experience in this district. I know Mr. Young mentioned his child that moved through AP classes. I had 3. Ann just talked about hers. Maya's in the audience. Many of us have had children move through these AP classes with incredible AP teachers. And I think some of your data ought to be anecdotal. Some of it ought to be from the experience level of these people working with students. Ann just shared one of the reasons why the kids don't take the test. There's lots of reasons why the kids don't take the test. We know that. This district used to have a vertical team where we had AP teachers working with honors teachers, working with middle school teachers, and there was more of a continuum. The question was raised about an AP coordinator. That used to happen in this district. A lot more coordination with College Board was happening as well. So I appreciate the deeper dive into AP. I think that that is a program that's worthy of inspection and clarity, but you don't arrive at that clarity without bringing your people together and sharing best practices. I'm also excited for you to have some talks about dual enrollment because I think that's another area that has been underserved in this district. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Maya Agary. I am a Lodi Unified parent and data lover, so this was fun. And I'm speaking specifically to slide 6, and I don't know if the October 29th session is a public session, but I think one of the things that I would be curious to see is if we have data within the schools with regards to grade level AP testing, because I think that's important. I think one of the things that can kind of maybe be dealt with more of that data is also pathway discussions. I think a lot of these kids, if they don't come from a home that's college educated, they're not really understanding what the AP means for a pathway. And I know that that also goes into a big discourse about pathways for now. We know there's other ways of getting to success that aren't necessarily college, but I think that is a really important part of fostering, because I'm looking specifically at Bear Creek, which is the school that I have familiarity with, right? So if you look at that 59%, that's actually a 40% pass rate, right? 40.7, if I did the math right. So if you have 92% of our students passing the class with a C or better, I have to believe that if 100% of those students took that class, we'd have a much better success rate. And I think, again, kids not really understanding. I know Ann mentioned for her daughter, maybe AP wasn't the right thing, knowing where she was going to college, but not all kids know what they're doing, especially if they're starting to take those AP classes freshman and sophomore year. I know for me, my son just takes them. I said, just take them. We can afford to pay the test. Like, take them and we'll figure it out when you get to the point that we're making applications. But again, I kind of always think about the kids who come from a home, parents have no idea what's happening and what it takes to get to college or what their children are even capable of. And that's where I think, we're missing kind of the resources like an AP coordinator or some kind of pathway coordination, even with the dual enrollment. I know that at Bear Creek, they're there, but it's kind of just scattered. College is over here, dual enrollment is over here. There's nothing umbrellaing that with AP, and I think those things are super important if you want to see those metrics change and you want to see them grow. So I love the data. I hope to see more of it, and I think it's going to be really telling. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dr. Horton, don't go away because you have the next board. We're looking at the revision of board policy in Rule 5145.7, sex discrimination and sex-based harassment.
Sure. This one's pretty easy one. We already brought this to the board previously. We went back and cleaned up some of the language. This is the cleanup of that language as requested.
Okay, any public comments on this? Board comments? Thank you. And let's see, Ms. Church, you're next up. Elimination of board policies and rules. Board policy and rule number 4020.1, tobacco-free school district, and 4031, employment procedures, and finally, board policy 4126, consultants.
Yes, thank you. So these board policies and rules that you see before you they do not exist in Gamut. They are not recommended as existing board policies. They're simply extra that at some point were put in place. So the recommendation is that they be eliminated.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay, is there any public comment on this? Oh,
Lisa Wilkins, LEA. Can you explain what the acronym GAMUT means?
California School Board Association has a portal where the attorneys who work for them are looking at laws as they update it. In California, they update often. Then they provide recommended updates to the language. So GAMUT just houses the information.
A little confusing, but okay, thank you.
any board comments?
Yeah, it's interesting, you said that on these things that don't have anything, it says, this agenda item is for review. I said, what do I review? I'm just kidding.
Nice one. Okay, any other comments? All right, moving on to Board Advisory Committee reports. Is there any Board Advisory Committee reports that would like to be reported on? Okay, any other comments from board members? No? Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?